Good morning, South Africa. False hope, misleading South Africans who are disappointed and desperate after receiving ineligibility letters. The conduct is disgraceful. No, it is reprehensible. For nearly a year, an uninformed person has been spreading distortions, lies, and misleading information to South Africans hoping to come to America under the refugee program that President Trump began on the 7th of February 2025, targeting me and now several others who have been reporting factually. Followers of the Facebook channel where the misinformation is spread have also lied about me, distorting my comments about those who received the letters of ineligibility on the 30th of June, falsely claiming that I called those people criminals or liars when I frequently and clearly stated that people are either ineligible or have made themselves ineligible through their past or recent actions. This includes past criminal conduct, drug use, lying, safe haven passports, refusing immunizations, social media contact, an inability to articulate past persecution, or a legitimate fear of future persecution. Folks are also now creating support groups to give false hope to those who receive these letters. These actions are destructive and will not result in ameliorating the situation. Rather, they may very well indeed exacerbate the situation, giving people who have no recourse false hope and leading to even greater disappointment and despair. One individual in particular has repeatedly slandered me on social media, lied to get attention, and misled desperate South Africans who received ineligibility letters, falsely claiming the letters were fake from June 30th onwards for 2 weeks now, and stands by this ludicrous claim. From the day they arrived on June 30th, my analysis was clear. The letters are genuine. In fact, less than 8 hours before these letters were delivered, I actually did an updated video to explain to people that ineligibility letters would be coming. And hours later, they did arrive. Yet that person lies and makes outlandish claims, dismissing the letters as fake. The slandering has unfortunately been called out by the U.S. Department of State. On July 12, 2024, nearly 2 weeks after I declared the letters genuine, Zach Collar, Chief Office of Public Affairs, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, confirmed to Rapport that the ineligibility letters delivered on June 30, 2026 are in fact genuine. Rapport is a South African media publication owned by Media 24, the same home of News 24. The slander has now been exposed once more, lying to desperate people. Yet some folks flock there to hear what they want to hear. Those who follow people like that are opening themselves up to disappointment and despair. Now, the latest is an effort to convince South Africans that they have a path forward, even though the letters of ineligibility clearly state there is no appeal. The decision is final. The latest effort appears to be based on the I-602 form, which some appear to be pinning their hopes on for a waiver to their ineligibility. Unfortunately, they're likely just barking up the wrong tree. So let's take a look at the I-602. Who can use it? You may file this application to obtain a waiver of grounds of inadmissibility if you are or were found inadmissible to the United States and you are a foreign national seeking to come to the United States as a refugee. But who should not file this form? Do not file this application if you are not seeking to be admitted to the United States as a refugee. If you are inadmissible for any of the following reasons, no waiver is available and you should not file an I-602. Controlled substance trafficker, general security and related grounds. And what exactly is that? Well, you can look it up in the code, but it's quite broad. Terrorist activities, adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. Well, that's a whole list of things. Participants in Nazi persecution, genocide, or the commission of any act of torture or extrajudicial killing. If any of these apply to you in any shape, form whatsoever, you should not apply for a waiver because it will not be granted. So what exactly is the I-602? The I-602 is an application by refugees for waiver of inadmissibility grounds. The key is a letter is a notification that you are not eligible. A letter of ineligibility, not a denial or letter of inadmissibility. That's why I say the colloquial use of denial letters is inappropriate and incorrect, although we use it interchangeably. It is an ineligibility letter. This is a form for inadmissibility. So how can you use this form? It's for people who are not admissible. Your letter clearly states that you're ineligible. Ineligible and inadmissibility, while similar, are not the same. Ineligibility, you've got no explanation as to why you aren't qualified to come into America. You don't know if it's criminal activity. You don't know if it's social media conduct. You don't know if it's safe haven passports. You don't know what the reason is. You must use this form if you've been given a letter of inadmissibility, which will explain to you what the problem is. As far as ineligibility, your only recourse was a request for review. However, in April of 2026, USCIS suspended that effort or that program. You can no longer request review for ineligibility. The adjudicators made that decision. In the past, you could request them to look at it if you had new information to illuminate a situation or clarify a situation, or if you came across the fact that when they interviewed you, they had incorrect information and you have something to correct a record. But those things go to the same person who determined you were ineligible, and it's up to them to review it and change their position. That opportunity disappeared in April this year, and it doesn't matter when you were determined ineligible. The legal review for this didn't happen until June, and then this went out. So you're ineligible. You have no recourse. Yet there are people trying to convince you that this is the form to use. It is not. So let's take a look at an example of what can make a refugee aspirant abroad ineligible for admission. Well, one way you can make yourself ineligible is refusing vaccinations. Refugees are vaccinated for mumps, measles, rubella, polio, tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis, influenza type B, and other diseases. Vaccinations are to protect the public health of the United States. But the waiver, the I-602, does not apply in this case. You are seeking a waiver under Immigration Nationality Act Section 209 of the vaccination requirement. And in parentheses, this ground does not apply to foreign nationals seeking to come to the United States as refugees. So you cannot get a waiver if you refuse vaccinations. You make yourself ineligible if you told them you refuse to get a vaccination. And some people did that, and therefore they're ineligible. It is very unfortunate that there are people out there who choose to slander others who simply report the truth and are cogent, lucid analysts who accurately project what all this means for refugees. The track record is clear. I've been consistently accurate in my analysis in the absence of information from the U.S. government, which has often been opaque about this process. Yet time and again, over and over, I've accurately predicted what's going to happen, whether it's a Christmas exodus and a suspension of flights, or its explanations as to why the flights, or that ineligibility letters would be coming and people would get them. And for that, I was attacked by people on that Facebook channel, accusing me of spreading fear when I simply was informing people that this process was happening and they would get them eventually. And now you're likely to get the letters as you're determined ineligible going forward. Time and again, in the absence of information, when no one knew what was going on last year, I called this program a proof of concept, the initial 59ers. I was correct. I had the first ever interview with a refugee in South Africa before they even departed the country. I accurately reported on what happened to that refugee when a stalker followed her to the airport. Yet hate wankers in South Africa lied about that and slandered me. Over and over and over again, I've been correct about this program. Yet people who lie, mislead, distort are on Facebook and in WhatsApp groups misleading people, giving them false hope about this program. Ladies and gentlemen, the letter is final. That may be painful and heartbreaking, but that's reality. And the sooner people come to grips with that, the sooner they can move on with their lives. But people like this who mislead you are distorting the truth. At present, there is no recourse. There are people here in the United States actively lobbying members of Congress and the administration to take a look at this. But that's just hope. If you want to have a hope and prayer, you can have that. But if you hang everything on that and you keep your life in limbo as a consequence, well, then you're listening to false prophets. And false prophets lead people down the wrong path. You have to make decisions for yourself. And listening to people who lie to you consistently and slander other people because they get it right is shameful. But it's your prerogative. You can listen to whomever you want to. You can go there and listen to people who lie to you, or you can listen to people who tell you the truth, no matter how painful it is. What say you, South Africa? Mzansi, South Africa. Cheers.